So today we are going to work on a serverless project where the client has given us some requirement and we have to implement it on AWS. Okay. Now, what type of application we are building? What is the requirement? I will give you the problem statement from the client, and accordingly we have to design our application. Okay. So a hotel owner came to you, a restaurant owner came to you, and he asked you to create a feedback form website. Simple. He wants the customer who are coming to his restaurant. He wants to take feedback of the customer, and it should be a simple website which will contain the person name, its email ID, some feedback information, mobile number, personal contact information, and that's it. And it should be stored in some database. Okay, which he should be able to retrieve after some time. Okay, that's a simple requirement from the client. So my question with the client with how many customers you are expecting. So on a daily basis, in a given restaurant, there will be 20 to 50 customers in the peak hours, max to max, and that too not in a single second, because the customer feedbacks are taken on a, as the customer come, he will eat the food and then he will give the feedback. So this 50 request will be over the given period of 7 to 10 p.m. or 12 p.m. So traffic is very low, right? Traffic is very low. Next question, I will ask the client that the feedback form which you are creating, you want, is it dynamic or static? Means how, what you are expecting. Do you want some pictorial diagram, something like that? He said it should be very simple. If some images are there, that's good, but the content is will be same. There will be no update as such. Only it's a feedback form. Okay, or this form can be used for your filling your exam information, candidate information, employee information, or any page which is used for filling the user information. Right now, after understanding the use case, it is clear that we have to create a website, create a form which will be storing the data into some database. Now, what type of website it is? It is static or dynamic? As a developer, you have to understand what type of website it is. It is a static website, right? I want to save a money, and this website can be hosted in AWS. And which two services we have used to host a website again? S3 as well as EC2 machine. Do you think here S3 versus EC2 machine, which is a better option to host a website? Let's understand. In S3 only support static websites. Okay, it is quite cheaper. EC2 machines, it support both static and dynamic website, but the machine has to be running continuously 24/7, irrespective the traffic is coming or not. Right? Do you think that the users will be coming and filling the form 24/7? So to eliminate this scenario, I can go with S3 in this case. Right? Even if the number of user increases, S3 can able to handle that, and it is static website. We can easily host on S3. Okay. So first component I have selected is S3. Okay. To host a website and store the data, I'm using S3. Right. Now what is the next step? To store the data, so we require database. What type of database we have learned in cloud? One is RDS slash Redshift, then DynamoDB, right? Redshift and DynamoDB, Redshift and RDS are the database which you have to maintain. Means this database has to be running 24 cross 7, and you have to maintain this database in general. Okay, can we use DynamoDB in this case? Can we implement DynamoDB? Because why I'm saying the volume of the data is very low. Okay, how many the users will be there? On a daily basis, there will be 50 client max to max. Monthly basis, 1500. Okay, so DynamoDB also is a good option here. Here I don't have to maintain the database. It's serverless, so you don't have to worry about the database is running 24 cross 7. Okay, it's only you have to pay only if you are using the database. Otherwise, it is not charged. You are not charged for the infra for the database, DynamoDB database. In this case, in RDS and Redshift, if you are using the database or if you are not using the database, still you have to pay the charges. These databases are useful when you are continuously using them. So to save the money, I can use DynamoDB. It's no SQL database, but I can store the information of users in a structural format as well, right? Now, can I directly send the information to DynamoDB? So on S3, we have a website hosted. This is my website page, right? And the user will going to access this web page. Okay, on the web page, there will be some form and there will be a click button, submit. So as soon as the submit button is clicked, some that information need to be dumped into DynamoDB. But you cannot directly connect that this website to DynamoDB. There should be some intermediate uh, wrapper is required. The first wrapper is API gateway or load balancer. I'm giving two options. Okay, why load balancer and why API gateway? Before that, you have to push the data into DynamoDB, right? Whatever the information is coming from the this form. So you can create EC2 machine. You can select EC2 machine or Lambda. Why? I require some computing power to evaluate the input form that all the information are filled by the input form is good or not, and then push the data into DynamoDB. To do this process, I require a computing power. Which is the best option here? EC2 or Lambda? EC2 again, we can run EC2 24 cross 7. There will be no problem for me. Can I squeeze my information into Lambda and put it into DynamoDB? What is the limitation of Lambda? It will run on 15 minutes. But putting the data into DynamoDB takes less than 1 second. And doing some validation, let's say it will take 5 seconds to do that. On average, max to max 10 seconds it will take to complete this request. So every time a user will click on submit button, a Lambda will be created and it will put an entry in DynamoDB. And that Lambda will take 10 seconds. Okay, this whole process will take 10 seconds. So Lambda can be a good option here. Okay, so for computing, for putting the information, I have select Lambda. It's serverless. We don't have to maintain the server, as well as don't have to pay the money to we are only going to pay money if we are triggering the Lambda, we are using Lambda. Creating a Lambda will not charge us. If we create the Lambda, we are not going to charge anything. Now, to trigger the Lambda, to pass the information to Lambda, we require some front end. Okay, this is my website, this is my front end, this is my Lambda, this is a back end. I want to interact my front end to back end. I can't directly trigger my front end to the Lambda. We require some intermediate application. Here there are two options. One is API gateway and other is load balancer. We have learned about load balancer. It distributes the incoming traffic to different endpoints. It can even trigger Lambda. But again, I have to create a load balancer which will be running 24/7. It will not going to give me a good option here. I'm going to waste money. Alternative, I have APIs, API gateway, which is a subset of load balancer which will be running for a period of 30 seconds if triggered. Again, we are not going to charge anything if you are using API. So this is the infra which I have selected in this case. So this is a diagram. So if you have enabled domain name, so this is Route 53. Okay. So a user will hit a Route 53, get the website information. Website is hosted in S3 bucket, and the user form will be populated on the browser. Then user will fill up the form, hit the API. API will hit Lambda, and Lambda will put the information to DynamoDB. This is as simple as this. Okay. Then the the client even asks you that he require another website, another page where he can fetch the user information. Okay, this is the feedback form, and this is for your hotel manager, that using the name or mobile number he should able to fetch the user information. So in this case we are going to use a similar pattern. So here the information is there in your DynamoDB. You're not putting the information, rather you are getting the information. Okay, so again we will create another web page which will be used by the manager or the hotel management to fetch the client information. That information will, as soon as they will click on submit button or get information button, it will trigger a API, another API. It will trigger another Lambda. It's not a same Lambda, it will be another Lambda. Okay, and it will fetch the information from your DynamoDB. Are we clear with the project? Now in your project folder there is a called web host folder. Okay, here we are learning serverless one. So here is the first submit button, second is get information. Okay, so as per the diagram we are going to create the entities which are not depending on other. So that means, what are the loose end of this architecture? This is not a loose end, it is connected with Lambda. Lambda is connected with DynamoDB. So our S3 bucket is a loose end as well as DynamoDB is a loose end. So we can create this service right now. These are the independent entities. They are not dependent on another entity. Lambda is dependent on DynamoDB. API gateway is dependent on Lambda. So first we'll create an S3 bucket where we are going to host our website. Now before that we have to create a form. So I will show you how the form will look like. Now this is a very simple HTML pages are there. Okay, index.html. If I click it, this is a simple page, simple HTML page. Okay, so if you right click it, open in your notepad, it's a simple HTML page. Now if you compare, Okay, if you compare SMS registration form. Okay, this text is here. Now first name. This is where you are going to fill the information. The first name. Here is a variable. The first name will be stored in this variable. There's a second variable, third variable, phone number. Okay, and here is a submit button. Here it is a submit button. So as soon as you click on the submit button, there is a script will be triggered. Okay, as soon as you click on submit button, okay, this script will be triggered. Which script? This one, JavaScript. Okay, there is a JavaScript. Where this script is here in the same folder. So what's there in the script? Okay, so it's a simple JavaScript. It's a code which will just take the all the inputs together. Okay, it will do some validation. Nowadays you might have seen that if you're typing some wrong thing, your websites give error that your mobile number should be in this format, your email id should be in this format, your password should be at least 9 character, 10 character, something like that. So this is done by JavaScript. Okay, .js. So that validations we have kept, that the column should be not null, you should fill all the information. Okay, this all things we are doing using this part. The first name should not be null, all these errors will be populated. Now after all the validations are done, we are combining all the information in a JSON. You can see here all information we are combining in a JSON. See, every contact number is in small, email ID, first name, last name, source, and timestamp, and we are hitting this URL. What is this URL? I will explain you in some time. Okay, so basically this is the body and this is the URL which we are going to hit a post request. Simple, right? This is a website. If you click this button will hit this URL. This is our URL, AWS URL, which I will explain you which URL it is. And you are going to do a post request. So remember, when two computer communicate with each other on HTTP protocol, one computer hits the other computer with a post method, that I am sending some information and this is the information. Agree? And this is the address of that other computer. Okay, so this is the address which we are going to create. Now everything is here, is ready here. So just create a S3 bucket first. Let's go and log in into our AWS account. Okay, now this is my AWS account. So I'm going to use this bucket. I have already created one bucket for me, and this is the bucket which I'm going to use to host my website. So everybody know how to host a website in S3. It's very simple. Just create one bucket, go to the permissions, disable the public block access. So make your bucket public and post this this bucket policy. This is a bucket policy to make your bucket more public. Okay, completely public. Then go to properties, scroll down, and enable the static website hosting. Click on edit, enable it, give the file name which you want to use as an input file name for your website landing page, that is the index.html, and just save it. So your S3 bucket is ready to host the website, and this is the URL of your S3 bucket. Okay, So if you upload the documents here, your website will be hosted. So let me upload this, all three files. Make your file public, yes, and upload. Okay, so these files are there. Just go to your S3 bucket URL and see this is hosted on S3. Simple. Now if I fill the information, it is saying some error is occurring. Why? Because the URL which we have hitted is not there. Right? As soon as I click on submit button, it will hit this URL, and this URL is not there right now. Okay, so we have to create that URL, we have to create the backend. Right now this is the front end which we have created. This is the front end which we have created. Now let's start with the backend. Is our backend service ready? No, that's why it is giving an error. Let's create a DynamoDB. Okay, now let me know, according to you, what should be the primary key of my DynamoDB? I told you that DynamoDB works on key value pair, right? It should have a one primary key. So if I'm creating a table, what should be my primary key of that table? So what type of information is coming to me? So first name, last name, email ID, and the phone number. According to you, out of these four parameters, what should be the primary key? Remember, primary key should be unique. Tell me, what should be the primary key? Can I use first name as a primary key? Can I use last name as a primary key? No. It should be. So, what is the other option? Email ID and phone number. Can this and any of this I can use? So, email ID can be used and phone number can be used as a primary key. So, I am using mobile number as my primary key. That is contact number. Okay. So, now name of the table. Let's create a table. You can give any name, user hyphen info. Okay. Just remember, if you are putting the name, you have to use the same name in your lambda. Now what is the primary key here? What will be the primary key? So remember, the information is pushed by the lambda, right? So your lambda should know the primary key. So let's go and check the lambda code. This is our simple Python lambda code, only of 40 lines, not more than that. Okay. So this is a lambda code. Okay. If you are familiar with lambda, if you're familiar with Python, this is a Python code, simple Python code to put an entry into DynamoDB. So what it is doing, it is taking the input from the source. Okay, it will take the input and it will push that input to DynamoDB. That's it. So this is a method. In this variable, you will get the input, and I'm fetching the information from this input. Now you can see email ID, first name, last name, and contact number. Okay, so remember, if you are selecting the primary key of your DynamoDB, this is the keys which will be used in DynamoDB in the left side. This is from the user, this is from the front end, and this is for the back end. Okay, I'm creating the input for my DynamoDB. This is the item, input item, which I need to push into DynamoDB. So I'm converting from the input and making it available for pushing to DynamoDB. So this is the email ID, name. We are not using first name, we are using name in my database. I'm getting the information as name. So from where I'm getting this information? From JSON, JavaScript. You can see here. In JavaScript, contact number, email ID with I and D capital, first name, last name, source, and the timestamp are coming. This information is coming, and you can see I'm using same value here. First name with N capital, last name with N capital, email ID with ID capital. This is the input for my lambda to my lambda. It will be same as the JavaScript has pushed. But while putting into DynamoDB, I am converting email ID into email ID, first name into the name only, last name into surname. I'm not using last name. I'm storing data as last name, surname. So this is a conversion which we are doing. So what is the primary key we have decided? We have decided contact number. So all just check if it is not. It should be not case sensitive. So whatever you are putting in this here, same thing should be your primary key. It should match. If you are using capital N, so it will fail because your DynamoDB is case sensitive. Okay, and keep everything default. Just create the table. Okay, now the table is created. It will take a couple of seconds. Now you have to create a lambda. Final thing. Okay, not final. This is the middle part. Lambda. Okay, for lambda, this is the code. So what we are doing? We are creating the connection between your lambda and DynamoDB. This is a connection. So in which region we are creating right now? We are in Mumbai. So first of all, let's go to lambda. So here in the code, I am connecting to DynamoDB, and the region is AP South 1, right? If you are in Virginia, you have to change the region to US East 1, and from where you will get the value, these values from here, AP South 1, US East 1. Okay, if you are working in Mumbai, your DynamoDB is in Mumbai, and you have passed US East 1, then you will get an error that table not found, because in Virginia there is no DynamoDB. DynamoDB in Virginia. DynamoDB is in Mumbai. So you have to give the region properly. Next, name of the table. So I have used this table. If you are using any other name, just copy this name of your DynamoDB and paste here, table name. Just two things you have to update. That's it. Table name and the region. If you are using the same, then you don't have to do any changes. Apart from that, this is good. Only thing you might need to change is the table name. Again, it's a case sensitive. If you are using I capital, U capital in your table name, so here also it should be same. Many students say the sir user information I have written info, but they have used U capital. So if you are using a U capital, that means it is a different table. As simple as it is. For us, user info is the table name, but for your DynamoDB, user with U capital is different as user with U small. Okay, now it's done, and let's go to our lambda. Okay, now you can create a lambda. You can give any name. User input lambda. Okay, before that you have to create a IAM role. Your lambda needs a role to put into DynamoDB. Okay, so go to your the roles, create a role. Now who is going to use this role? Lambda. Click on next button. Now what role I have to give this lambda to? DynamoDB, right? This lambda is going to access DynamoDB. So I'm giving full access of DynamoDB, and I'm giving a CloudWatch entry. Okay, why I'm giving a CloudWatch? Because I want to give print some information. This is a print information. Okay, and if some error is there, all the information will be pushed to CloudWatch. So CloudWatch full access. This two permission I am giving. So all the logs and metrics will be pushed to CloudWatch. So give a name. So I'm giving the same name as my lambda underscore role. Okay. Now you can just check the permission. CloudWatch full access, DynamoDB full access, and create a role. So we have created the role successfully. Now come to your lambda. Select the language Python. Okay, Python has different version, Python 7, 8, 9. You can select anything. Even Python 10 right now, it is latest one is Python 10, and this code support Python 10. Click on advanced, change the role, use the existing one which you have created, and just search the name of the role which we just created. Advanced setting not required. Just save the function. Now we just had created the lambda. This is a template. Okay. Here in the configuration, just increase the timeout. Default timeout is 3 seconds right now. We can increase up to 15, but our code should complete within 3 seconds. Now delete this part, the code, and just copy all this information from your local and paste it here, and just click on deploy. Deploy means save. Deploy means save. Okay, Amazon has some weird uh, thought process, and they didn't use the word save, they used the word deploy. Now my lambda is ready. If you want to test, if the lambda is ready, you have to give the input. So I have given a sample input here. Okay, this is my sample input. If you can see, this is a JSON. I will show you in the browser. So you can see this is the input, this is a sample input. Okay, you can pass this input into your lambda just to test right now. So you can see there is an option called testing. It is a, if you want to test your lambda, so click on this button, configure it, give any test, this testing lambda, you have to give a name and pass this input. This is just to test my lambda is with a sample input. Whenever we are developing something, will have some sample data. So this is a sample input, and save. Okay, and just click on test button, run it. Now you can see I got some error. Okay, now it is saying one or more parameter is invalid. Why? The contact number. So in my test, you can see the n is capital, so it should be small, because we are expecting everything to be small. Again test it. Now it is successful. So let me change that input as well in your local system. Contact number n is small. Okay, and in the okay, so now you can see your lambda has ran successfully. It has given successful. That means there should be entry in DynamoDB. Let's check it out. So click on explore item, click on the table name, and you will see some, there is a information in the DynamoDB. So your lambda receives some input. that input it converted into the required format as to be put in DynamoDB, and it has pushed the information into the DynamoDB. Okay, now I'm just deleting this information. This is not required. Now the next and the final part is creating the API. Now I will show you two methods to create API. One is manual method. If you are expert enough, then you can create your own API from scratch. Other is, I have already given you a template in your server 1. This is a your API template. This is your API template which you can use to create the API. So now this is your API console. Okay, in the REST API, click build or import. If you want to build from scratch, if you want to build from scratch, you can use this. Okay, new API, and you have to create everything manually, or you can just import. Okay, here you can just click on import button, import, and just paste your this information. Just directly copy paste, you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, everything I have created for you, just copy paste. Yeah, sorry, import from the Swagger. Click on the Swagger file, go to your project, open this JSON. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, so what it will create, it will create a API for you. Click on import. So now this is your API is ready. So you can create this thing manually, but as of now I don't want you to create this thing manually. You can just use this template and just add it as per your requirement. Now we are using submit button. Okay, and even for lambda, okay, submit button, click on the submit and post. Now here you can see there is a lambda which has a value null. Now give your lambda name. So as soon as you type entering, it will show you your lambda name and save. Okay, so now this has your lambda. So your lambda is indicated with the submit button, and I think you have to create for put get also right now. Let me check. Now if you want to save this thing, if you want to save all any changes you have done, you have to click on deploy and create a stage. This is you have to do manually dev. So every time you do some changes, now it is giving me error, I will fix it. If you are doing any changes in the API, you have to deploy it. To make it save, you have to deploy it. Now it is saying for the get method also, the lambda is blank. You should not keep the lambda blank. So just right now pass the current lambda. Okay, we will modify it after some time. But as of now, we have only one lambda, so you can save this lambda. We are not going to use this get method as of now. अभी हम लोग use नहीं करने वाले. So this is get method, this is post method. Now I have did some changes, so click on deploy, click on stage, give any name and deploy. Integration definition for method, which method? Options. Okay, delete this one. Huh? Delete this method. Option. Click on option. Delete method. I just want get and post. Okay, why it has taken option as well. Just let me options. Let's see. Okay, click on deploy, click on stage, dev, and deploy. Now which one is remaining? Okay, this option is also remaining. Delete method. I don't want any options. Okay, so your website is ready. Your endpoint. So click on the stage, click on dev. Now you can see here is the URL. This is the URL which we need to pass to your JavaScript, your web page. You just copy this URL. This is in the stage. Go to API stage and copy this URL. Go to your JavaScript, add your JavaScript, and paste it. Now you can see here I want to use post method, right? Here in dev, submit button, post method. So this is the URL, complete URL. So dev, submit, post button. So just replace this with your API. So previously it was another API. Now replace with your API and save it. Just save it. Let me check once it's working in the console or not. It's working. Okay. So now you just has to change the JavaScript which we have modified just now. So upload this JavaScript again in your S3 bucket. This is my S3 bucket. I'm uploading the JavaScript here. Simple. It's ready. Okay. Now just refresh your form. Your S3 form. This is my S3 bucket URL. Just refresh it once. Now fill the information. Now if I'm not passing some values, now it is giving me an error. Please enter the email ID that we have written in JavaScript. So if you are not passing the even mobile like this, please enter a valid email ID. So there are some checks there in the JavaScript. Okay, it is giving me some error. Okay. Now there is some problem with Chrome. If I open this in Mozilla or Edge, okay, let me check if entry is there in. Okay, did we hit the API or not? So I'm checking the Lambda. Did my API hit the Lambda or not? Okay, it has hit the Lambda. The request came to Lambda, but there is some issue. No, no. Wait. Okay, let me click on submit button again. Okay, it is not hitting the Lambda. The request is not coming to Lambda. Is API hit? So click on inspect button. Click on inspect button. Click on network console. Now it will show you the error. I know this error. So go to the Chrome Edge. Now fill up the same form. Okay. Now you can see some error here that cor cross chorus is not enabled. Chorus is not enabled here. Chorus policy. So what is chorus policy? That your API, the API gateway which we have created, should be hit by your some website. So this API which we have created, right now we have just created simple API. You just have click on action and you will see enable chorus. Okay. uh, yeah, if you click here you can see enable chorus, or if you click here you can see enable chorus. So click on enable chorus, yes, and just click on enable. Same do with this here get method also, enable chorus. And as I did some changes, okay, the option came now, that's why the option was required. Okay, enable chorus, click on every item. Okay, now just save it again. So why this is happening? Because our API is not allowing our web page to hit through S3 bucket. Okay, so this S3 bucket to API, even though it's public, it is not allowed. Now it this is resolved. So let's refresh it again. Now click on here, Parag. Now you can see, congratulations, you have entered successfully. Now just check into DynamoDB once. If everything goes fine, your entry should be there in DynamoDB. So these are the few troubleshooting which you might have to do. So enabling the chorus, how did I identify? Just right click, go to inspect, and go to console. So it will give you the error here, that what type of error you are getting. Okay, so you can enter some other value. Email ID, just change the mobile number. So as your user fills the information is stored in DynamoDB. Any question on this? Any question on this? This is for getting the information, putting the information in DynamoDB. Simple. The first part is to put the information in DynamoDB. Now we are going to do a reverse path, getting the information from DynamoDB. Okay, we have to create another lambda. This is user input lambda. We are going to create another lambda which is get user info lambda. Same Python. You can give the same role. You can use the same role if you want. You can create new one. It we have already given the full access to DynamoDB. That is read and write. Okay, just replace this code with the other one. So here you have another get info. Okay, and the code is here, Python code. Click on edit. Same type of code is there. Here we are just pulling the contact number. As the from the contact number, just get the information. So what you have to do, check if my information is coming as small n and the table name and the region in which you are working. Just copy this code here and save it. That's it. You don't have to do anything. For testing purpose, again I have test file here. Here contact number and small. So just copy this information from here and check my lambda is working or not. Click on config, testing lambda and paste this information here. This is a sample input which you are going to get and just save. Click on test button. Okay, entry, now it is giving entry not found. So it is successfully completing the lambda, but it is not getting the entry. Why? Because this mobile number is not present. Now if this mobile, let's go to DynamoDB, copy this mobile number here, save and check. Now you can see it has returned the information, Salman Khan. So for get also, the lambda is created. There is another lambda for get. It is able to fetch the information from DynamoDB. Now we have to integrate with API. So let's go to API. API we have this here. Go to resource here, resources, click on get info. Now you can see I have used curly braces here. So I can use get method and pass the information in URL itself. I don't in the get we are passing the input in URL. In post we have an option called body, but in get method we have to pass the information in URL, whatever the URL which we are creating. So just click on let me delete this method for you once and create it again. Get method. Click on here, create method. Click on get and click here on a use proxy integration. and give the your lambda name. So get user info lambda. Okay, even I can check it from here. Just pass the contact number. Now you can see it is returning me the information. So API, you have to practice it. There's so much about API. So this is a lambda. So from here, test button is there. I can put some input and just test. So you can see no value found. This is given by this lambda. So API is hitting the lambda. Lambda is hitting DynamoDB, and if information is there, it will be returned back to the API. This is what we are returning. So API act as a firewall between your backend and frontend. So as a user, you don't know what is going on behind the scene. API is acting there. Now we have done some changes. Click on action, enable chorus again, and click on deploy. Deploy on dev and save it. Now here we are going to use get method. Now only the part is remaining is changing the website. So you can use different S3 bucket. Right now I'm using the same S3 bucket, but instead of submit form, I'm using get form. So I'm deleting this one. Okay, I'm deleting the this one page and going to host another form. So here you can see in the get info, this is my form. Simple. Get user info, and behind that there will be a JavaScript. So this is your JavaScript. So as soon as you click on submit button, if you open this index.html, this is your input, and as soon as you click on the submit button, the request will trigger the JavaScript get info. So this is your JavaScript. Now it will take the input and it will hit this API. This is your API. Now I will just show you one interesting thing about APIs. So this is my URL for get. If you click on get here, this is my URL for get. Copy this link and paste it in your notepad. Okay, I'll just copy like this. Now you can see get info, and there is a curly braces called contact number. Remove this curly braces and enter any mobile number. So in your browser is always a get. Your browser always work as the HTTP get method. If you click here, you can find it's working. You can't use post, but in browser you can use get method. Now replace this number with any DynamoDB entry. Now you can see it is returning me the value. So this is the fixed URL, and this part is variable, the input from your form. So if you go to notepad, go to your JavaScript. So till here you have to replace it, and this is the input from your JavaScript. So this is my URL. Replace this, copy this URL till here. Don't copy paste as it is. It will give you an error because your URL contain. If you copy this, you have to remove this part, contact number, because it will be appending through your form. So you can see till here and first name. So I have replaced it, I have saved it, and I will just copy one two information in my S3 bucket. Make it public access, and we are done. Okay, so now you can use S3 URL again. Now enter any mobile number 1212121212. Now you can see information not found. Now if I'm using the same number which is there in my DynamoDB, it will give me the information. Okay, you can use another mobile number. So this is how the forms are created in real world. Any question? So right now I'm using S3 URL. You can integrate with your Route 53 if you have the domain. Go to your domain. Go to your hosted zone. Click on your domain. Edit your domain. And pass S3. Now I can use this domain instead of S3 URL. Now you can see it's working. Any question on this project? This is serverless web hosting on S3 bucket, and we are using all the services which are serverless: API, Lambda, and DynamoDB. All these three are serverless. So serverless means when you are using them, then only you will be getting charge of them. Otherwise, for creating and preserving the information, there is no charge. Even in DynamoDB, you will be getting charged for data storage, but this data is very small. If you are putting thousands of records, still it will not cross 1 MB, 1 MB, 2 MB. So it will be a penny worth of saving the data. Any question? So if you ask me, sir, how much bill in a given month a client might have to pay for this service, I will say max to max 10 to 50 rupees per month for a average traffic of 1000 requests per day. If you are using 1000 times per day, then the client has to pay 10 to 50 rupees. That's it. Okay. So this is your first project. We'll take a break of 15 minutes and then we'll cover the second project.